Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Bilbrey Live Part 2. This is called A Conversation with Louis Galligan. Everybody is aware of what's going on. We're going to be talking to somebody that literally, until here just recently, we've looked at as kind of an adversarial position. Now, I already went over my thoughts on that. And I'm going to talk to this guy because I've not really ever had an in-depth conversation with him since we've switched. You know, that being said, I've never had any personal ill will towards this guy. Everything that has ever happened has come from a perspective of the fact that he was on Team Bob. And, you know, politics is a blood sport, you know, so that's the way I look. So there might be people in the audience that are like, oh, hell, screw you, whatever. I would just ask everybody, look, you don't have to immediately jump on and trust everybody. I don't trust this guy the same that I trust Josh, or the same that, you know, I would trust like my father, you know, but it's new, you know what I mean? Maybe we'll get there. Maybe we won't. Maybe he doesn't want to get there. I don't know. We're going to find that out together. So I ask everyone to just do me one favor. Just have an open mind, and we'll see where we go together. He obviously can hear everything I'm saying now. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Louis Galligan. Hey, King Louis, what's up?
What's going on, Chris? Good to see you.
Good to see a white blob there in the center and hear your voice. We won't. Josh told me where you're at, but we won't say that for the world. But we will say that you are currently in an undisclosed location. Thank you for joining us.
Well, I'm sitting right now in the truck next to a church. I think Kirsten would be very pleased.
Well, that's good. That's good. Now, if you can just pray that we can get through this this show without cutting off in the middle, that's what we need for right now. So, first and foremost, Kate, I want to say thank you for joining us. I got really scared because, like, I sent you the thing and we didn't connect. And I thought, oh my God, he's decided he doesn't want to do it, or something's happened, or whatever. So, better late than never. I'm glad that we connected. I'm glad that you're with us, and I just want to start off by saying, you and I've never had a conversation that's been longer than just a couple, you know, quick hi and byes at a meeting or here, there, whatever. I mean, we've never had any massive, long conversation of any kind of thing. You know, I know that we've been on opposite sides. I know that you've probably, you know, thought things of me. You've probably heard things about me. Maybe some of them are true. Maybe some of them are not. Maybe some of them are valid. Maybe some of them are not valid. Politics is a blood sport. I have lots of people in my life that are very near and dear to me now that at one point they weren't. I have people in my life now that I can literally say, I don't really hate anybody. I think it's just kind of a nasty thing to hate. It's like a cancer, but there's a lot of people that I strongly dislike. And there are people in my life now that at one point I strongly disliked. There are also people not in my life that at one point we were the best of friends. So, you know, shit happens and things happen. Politics is a blood sport. And as I said, and I don't know if you heard part of the show before you connected or anything, but I was telling the people that are watching and listening right now that, in my opinion, the way I do things, and people may or may not believe this, but I feel like I've been in politics for 25 years. I've been doing what I do now for the last 5. in one form or another. But I think my track record speaks for itself. I do not go after private citizens. I don't go after people that when I'm dealing with politics, I deal with candidates, I deal with elected officials, appointed officials, and public servants hired or volunteer. And then beyond that, like, I don't go after private citizens for their opinions unless there's somebody that is like a politico, somebody that is like a private citizen, but who engages in politics, helps people on teams, and they have absolutely played and engaged in the team. But then if I go after that person, I'm not going after that person for like as a private person. I'm going after that person because of their relationship to the candidate or to the person. So there have been things that I'm going to tell you right now. I apologize to you for things that I've said or been a part of. I think you've got some heat and some quote unquote hate from us that either was undeserved or maybe misplaced. And I think that part of that is because of the situation that you were in with Bob, and maybe we can talk about some of that in a little bit. But I just wanted to start off by saying, you know, I have no problem admitting, like, hey, maybe I'm over the line here or there or whatever. But, you know, I looked at you as, and I know you and Josh had a talk, but I looked at you as somebody that was like, you know, we stacked up our team and you were on Team Bob. I didn't hate you. You know, I didn't know you to hate you, you know, that first and foremost that, but you were somebody that I looked at as being on the quote unquote enemy's team. And so, you know, you got your lumps there. I apologize, you know, for that. And I know that everybody is just, you know, human trying to do the thing. So I wanted to start from there, first of all. And, you know, I also think it's fair to say, you know, there's definitely some question I have. I mean, I'm not jumping into this saying like, oh, Louis is talking to us, like, I trust him, I'm going to have him come over here and babysit my, you know, my family, and I'm going to give him the keys to the castle, and, you know, here's all my guns. You know, like, it's going to take time to build some kind of a trust, and I'm sure it will be for you too. So and maybe that's something you want, maybe it's something you don't want, but I at least appreciate the fact that you're talking to us and you're here. So I don't want to do anything else to harm you in any way. You know, I don't think that we're in that position where we need to. So if I ask you anything tonight or anything that you don't want to answer, you know, obviously you have a right to say, no, I don't want to answer that or whatever. I mean, you can end this at any time. I'm not holding a gun to your head. You know, we're not in the same room. So I thank you for being here, but that's just where I wanted to start from there.
I appreciate that, Chris. And I think the first thing, I'm going to apologize to you too. I think our relationship started very negatively, and I think, like I told you and told Josh, I think it came down to politics. You know, I always thought about it. There was never a problem that I had with Josh, apart from us arguing over Bob, and it wasn't until a deep conversation with my mother to go, why am I arguing over a 60-year-old man?
Right.
I'm arguing with grown adults over an adult. And, you know, and I think that was the turning point in this situation.
So how did you're not originally from Winchester, right?
No, I was born in London, England.
Okay, I knew that. I don't know if you, like, I knew your mom long ago, kind of in a roundabout weird way. We had been Facebook friends, and we used to communicate on Facebook periodically, quite some time ago, 6-7 years ago. So, I knew that. I actually lived in London for a while, so definitely love the city. And then from there, you lived in Richmond, right?
Yeah, I was in Richmond for about 7 years, and then we've lived in Winchester since about COVID, about 2020.
Okay. So, how, I mean, if you don't mind saying, like, are you politically minded? Like, what goes on with that?
Well, the reason I got into the whole council meetings and getting into politics was one, unfortunately, I am family to Lisa Friend. So that was part of the reason I got involved with Winchester politics, more as moral support, to go there. And, she's on the council. Um, I'm hearing, there's a lot of conflict going on. But it really started when I heard about some things about the school resource program,
All right.
that were really concerning. So I scheduled a meeting with Bob and um, Chief Burke. I think Burke was in his position for 7 days when we had this discussion. And that is where this all started. That is where me and Bob's relationship started. And from there, we kind of just grew as friends, and now we're here.
Okay. And so did prior to this, did you know Bob in any way?
No.
Okay, so I mean, just this all happened, and you were going to kind of like give some moral support, and there were some issues you had, and you had a meeting, and then bam, you guys just kind of hit it off. So when like, if you can talk a little bit about like how that relationship grew, or I mean, I've got lots of different relationships in my life with lots of different people. So like when you say a relationship, like describe like what that like entailed, if you would.
Yeah. So I discussed my concerns with the school resource program. At this point, Bob had the same concerns, but from what we talked about in the meeting, he just hadn't had a chance to talk to Burke about them. It was something that they were working on. And I asked Bob to keep me in the loop, let me know, if I needed to go to the school board. So Bob at this point gave me his phone number.
Okay.
And this was September, October of last year. And then from there, I came to a council meeting. It was a pretty big one. I know that they were trying to get some support. It was around the time of the demotion of John Reed, and I had some viewpoints on that,
Sure.
just by some things that I saw. So, when I heard about the meeting and they needed some support, I said, okay, I'll go and express my concerns at this meeting. And from that point on, Bob really liked, I guess, the way I spoke at the meeting. And we've communicated pretty much daily up until December, from October to December, several times a day.
Okay. So like your friendship with Bob, I mean, is one that like, I mean, you guys communicated, and with the communication, would it be like you to him to you? Was it like 50-50? Was it like 60-40? Like who, in your eyes, looking back from now all the way to the beginning, in all of that time, was it a pretty even split? Was it, how do you look at, who instigated most of the conversation, from this point looking backwards? Like if you, out of 100%, what would you think?
I would say it was pretty even.
Okay.
It would be, how's everything going? And can I see the topics for the council meeting? And then when Kimbrell and I got into it about the police chief situation,
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people got satisfaction out of that.
Oh, sure.
So from that point on, it was kind of team Bob versus team Civic Duty and you guys.
Yeah.
So Bob knew that I had some problems with them, and I think that was the basis of our friendship. It was two mutual people who have a dislike for another group. So you kind of like,
the
you got
enemy
the
of my
Bloods and
enemy
the
is my
Crips.
friend.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it was kind of like that. So we'd talk about, I'd say, hey, how are things going? I'm on my way to work. Da 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 da. The meeting was chaos, and then he would respond something like, dipshits in the office, or dipshits up here,
Right.
or idiots hiding around the corner. So just through mutual conversation, I grew a hate for the group
Sure.
of you guys,
Yeah.
just through my relationship with the mayor and his side.
Sure. Well, you know, and that's like the thing. If you take somebody that's never been politically active and you put them on a couch in front of Fox News, and they're watching Fox News 8 hours a day or any length of time a day, and that's the only thing they're going to get, you know, after a period of time, they're going to be a pretty conservative-minded folks. If you put somebody on the couch and they've never been politically active and the only thing you give them is CNN, they're going to come away from that and they're going to be a pretty left-leaning individual. So, you know, it's the same thing. And I want to say to everybody that's watching this, and I want to say to you, like, look, there are people, there's a lady currently running for city council in Muncie right now that I call she that shall not be named. Okay. I don't mention her name. I'm campaigning hard against her. I campaigned hard against her 4 years ago. We got her beat, actually. And here she is on the screen, and I don't want her to win. She is probably one of the closest people that I could say might every now and then tick that hate part, but I try not to do that. She's just a strong dislike. That being said, I have a respect for her politically because of what I know that she's capable of. So, like, I'm not mad at you, or I was never mad at you, or even Bob for that fact, because he's playing the political game. I understand that's part of it. So, like, I get that. It's kind of like chess. I'm a political junkie, so it's all part of it. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't have it. So, like, I completely get that. So there might be things that we say, and I want you to be 100% like sure. Like, if we're talking, like, when you say, like, hey, he said dipshits up here, like, I understand at this time you were well engaged with that side. So don't feel like you got to, like, mince your words. I get it. We're here today. That's cool. I don't care about any shit that happened 3 months ago. Now we're just telling a story, and it's all part of it. So, as that grew, you know, like, was he giving you, did you feel that, let me ask you this. Do you feel that Bob was, using you?
Oh, well, I was told multiple times that was the case. Even by some of his closest compatriots,
Okay,
would reach out and say that they're using me to say the things that they don't want to say. So, you know, I do believe that, looking back on the situation, is I would fight back, or I was the talking point, so that they can stay out of the headline, and your group would be able to focus on me.
yeah.
And multiple people have said that was the mission of him and his team.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I don't know if you're still friends with any of the other people on the team. Maybe you do, maybe you are, maybe you aren't. Are you willing, or would you be willing to mention who any of the other team members there were, or who made up any of that? I mean, I don't know how that works with you.
I would say our parks superintendent and street superintendent and a council member would make up that clique, as well as our city attorney.
Okay. So which is, I don't think that you're giving any kind of crazy breaking news. I think that's been pretty easily I think that's something that's been pretty easy to kind of pick out, that we're talking about, you know, obviously the mayor, Meeks, Sheen, and John. So that's understandable. And so are these, like, let me ask you this. Did you ever communicate with any of those other individuals, or was it always just Bob?
Evenly. I talked to many of them. Actually knew John from the pizza house prior to even doing anything with council, and just being a local community member, as well as Jim. My grandmother used to work with Jim's family many years ago at Hill's Pets. So I've
Okay.
always knew about the Nunezes, and they've
Sure.
always kind of been there. So like I knew who these guys were, but it was never on a communication basis until the first time I went to a council meeting.
Okay. Okay. But then after this friendship developed, there would be times that you would communicate with, say, Sheen, or would you ever communicate with Meeks, or like outside of the meetings, or how did that go?
Well, generally, the only time I would see or be able to communicate with Meeks actually would be on my grandfather. He is our family attorney. So I was always in communication. My grandfather's very sick and very old. So sometimes, if we have to make changes to our family trust or things like that, then I would have that communication with Meeks. So that layer of communication was there prior to council meetings. But since the council meeting part has taken over since last year of October, the only communication I would have with Meeks would be after a meeting, as they're leaving, or walking into the meeting or leaving the meeting. No communication was ever done via text or phone with Meeks.
Okay. So, how when all of this was going on, I mean, like, did you think that okay, so sometimes it's like this. It's like when police officers say you're a narcotics investigator, say you're a homicide investigator, and you've worked homicide for years, and you've watched people be torn up and families broken up and all of this, and so you've seen the worst of the worst, yada yada yada. You kind of get hard and cold, and so you see somebody, and even though it's not right and it's not constitutional, maybe you treat somebody a little different, you treat somebody bad, you rough somebody up, but you think like, well, at the end of the day, they like killed 3 people 2 weeks ago, so like the ends justify the means, they're going to prison, yada yada yada. Were there times when things were going on, when you guys were talking, and they would be doing things where you were like, this probably isn't right, but Josh is a dickhead, Bilbrey's a dickhead, and they deserve what's happening? Like,
many times. I think that was pretty much every day.
Do you think that they felt that way?
It's clear in some of the text messages that were shared with Josh. I think it's very clear that especially Bob knew what he was doing. There was clear intent.
Okay. So like it was like, we're gonna, like, for example, when Bob's like, they want my text messages, and they're not gonna get shit, but I'm gonna delete things. I mean, obviously he's spelling out right there clearly, I'm deleting things, which, I don't know what kind of weird law that he and or his attorneys are telling him, but the public access counselor has been clear as a bell with this. Public requests can be made of public officials while on the clock, and Bob doesn't like to give it, and then at that at that point it turns out to be a fight, and we've just got to wage that war. If he deletes things at the end of the day, he deletes them. The only thing we would have is, we could get the records that would show there was a message there and he deleted them. And like a lawsuit would have to occur. And that's a really long and drawn out process because you never really know what was there. But do you get the impression that they were talking, I mean, that like Bob and Meeks were talking about ways to like, kind of stamp Josh out and shut him down or whatnot?
I don't think it was more of Meeks. I think it was Bob and JD Prescott.
Okay.
there were several times, and I shared those conversations with Josh also, but there were several times during my conversations with Bob that he would ask for like an image or something off of your guys' page or YouTube or something, and it would be because JD wants to see it, or JD sending it to the Attorney General, or whatever was going on, but JD was sending it up the chain. So that was the only, I don't think it was more of Meeks to my knowledge. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that um, I don't think I don't think this was going on in front of me. However, I'm not going to tell you it's not happening. Him and Meeks may have been communicating about ways to interfere or prevent you from doing things that are constitutionally protected. However, I think JD was the guy that led that charge.
That's so strange to me. That's that's hilarious. So, I got to just ask you, and I want to be real careful here, and I want to say this, and I mean, I'm going to say a disclaimer for me, and then I want you to be protected as well. I'm not, I've got, as far as I'm concerned, okay, and I want to say this. When all of these text messages came through, I mean, I just want to be honest. The very first thing that happened is I'm like, these look really good. Some of them look better than others. Some of them, they're like, okay, maybe it's not a big deal, whatever. But the thing is, I was like, how do we know that, like, Louis isn't just texting these to himself and making it look, like I said, you're just playing devil's advocate. But Bob confirmed today, like, and I don't know if you know this or not. I want to watch. Are you okay if we watch about a 4-minute clip of a video real quick?
Yeah, that's no problem.
Okay, I want to put this up on the screen here real quick. So I had to go to Josh's house today for some other things, and so I was in Winchester, and I was obviously aware of these text messages, and I had seen the text messages, and I knew, the things that Bob was saying, about me or about, other people, and like, look, you don't get where I'm at or do what I'm doing without having thick skin. I don't care if someone's like, hey, look, he's fat. Like, I'm like, oh, yeah, right. I mean, tell me something else. I don't know, like you're not, like, okay, I get it. So whatever. So he's like, oh, tell Bilbrey he's like a cow or a sow. That's just shit that just does not affect me in any way, whatever, like, I've lost weight before, gonna lose weight again. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'll get fatter, but there's a certain amount of like stupidity and corruption that it's just like Bob can't seem to ever get past. So I can fix my issues. I don't know what he's going to do about his, but I thought, hey, I'm at City Hall because I went in to get to talk with Carrie about a few things. And I was like, I'll just ask Bob if he wants to address any of this to my face. So I was at City Hall today, and I decided to record the event, and I was in Carrie's office. Bob's door was closed, and like, I wasn't in there screaming or yelling. Bob didn't know I was in there. I mean, maybe he did once I beeped. I know that their camera systems all throughout there. But I was there talking to Carrie, and I said, do you know if Bob's in? She came out her door, and she went and knocked, and she said, Mayor. And he said, tell Mr. Bilbrey, Mayor McCoy has nothing to say to him today, which was just kind of a, weird. So I thought, okay, well, I'll talk to you through the door. So that's what we're going to see here just for a second. I want everybody to, let me pull this up here. Okay. Play. Play. It's not playing. Stand by here. See what this issue is here. Okay, pull this up. Okay. Here we go. Gotta refresh.
To be continued.
Okay, here we go. Thank God. View and fast forward here. All right. She's getting ready to come outside.
And then this
I don't really care about any of this. I just care about when she knocks on the door.
Right.
if it's on it.
Appreciate it. Okay, here she goes.
Hey, are you
Okay, so she knocked on the door and she didn't say anything to him. And you can barely hear it, but you can hear it on my end. He says Bob doesn't have anything to say to Mr. Bilbrey. So then I start talking.
Are you sure you don't, Bob? Well, here recently, you had asked a friend of yours if they thought that you should tell me that I was a cow. Do you want to fucking man up and come and say that to my face?
He doesn't say anything.
Bob? Hey, Bob McCoy? Hey, Robert McCoy? You want to man up and come out here and say that to me? Are you calling the police, Bob? If I knock on your door 3 times, are you going to call the police? I just want to ask you. I mean, you had no problem running your mouth and saying it in a text message. I just want to know when the fuck you're going to grow up. You are a pathetic excuse of an individual. And I'm glad that you're recording me. I'm recording it too. So my question is, do you want to come out and have a talk? I'm not a threat. I've never threatened you. There's witnesses here. I just want to ask what kind of public official you think you are. What are you accomplishing, Bob? I'll wait.
I'm gonna go back and work in PD.
Okay, yeah, you're good.
If you need me,
If I need you, I'll holler Terry. I'll say help. He's out.
Okay, there's where that one ends. And then here's the very last.
File a protective order against me now? Are you going to file a protective order against me now? Another protective order that you will lose? Is your secretary going to perjure herself and say that I battered her as well? Politically speaking, with no ill will or intent, politically speaking, your days are numbered, politically speaking, with no threat or ill will intended to you as an individual.
At this point, he starts playing a piano cover of AC/DC's Let There Be Rock.
Na, 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 na. Well, at least you like good music. I feel sorry for you, Bob. I truly do. This entire lie that you have crafted, where you believe this community respects you or thinks that you're somebody of any kind of standing, it's all crashing down. I watched as you sat on the stand, pathetic, a little husk of a man. How sad. Well, I'll see you next time, Bob. Unless you want to come out and tell me. Not even man enough to actually listen to the actual song. It's like some kind of piano version of AC/DC. Is that it?
So, at this point, I left City Hall, and I thought this was over.
Are you going to file?
I went to Josh's house, and when I picked up Josh said, "Hey, I need to go to City Hall," and we went to City Hall, and while we were at City Hall, Bob comes out and says, "For the record, I didn't say sow, or I didn't say cow, I said sow." Because in this video, you called me a cow. I didn't say anything about the sow comment. So Josh was with me, and Bob said it like 2 or 3 times. Now, we didn't have that on my video. I didn't get my video up in time, but Josh actually got his video on in time to hear Bob talking about the Sal comment. In my opinion, at that point, you gained a lot of respect, in my opinion, because it was Bob admitting to these comments. Bob said something in that comment that I had not said to him, that Josh had not said to him, that he would not or could not have known about unless he knew the texts that I was referencing. So at that point, I thought, holy shit, this is crazy. He literally just admitted to them, Louis is right. So my question to you is, and I want to say this, I'm not trying to put out anything here that isn't factually right. And I want to caution you. And, you know, I want you, you know, obviously, you know what you're willing to do and not do or whatever. And I'm not trying to put you in any weird situation. So only say what you know and you can prove. Bob made a very strange comment to you in one of the text messages where Bob says to you something about bringing cocaine. Do we know what that is?
Do I know what cocaine is, or do I know what his intentions were?
Do we know what... Smart ass. Do we know what his intention? Like, is that a joke between you guys? Was that, is cocaine like a code for like water or chocolate or, you know, a good time? Like, or like, why would he ask you if you wanted to bring, if you could bring cocaine? Is that not a weird statement to make?
Yeah, and in my response back to that, I totally changed the subject, because I didn't know what he was referring to, because the first picture was a beer, him drinking a Bud Light.
Yeah.
And then I asked him where he was at, and he said he was at Roots. And matter of fact, I did stop in at Roots.
Right.
They were sitting in the dining hall, and I walked in, and, you know, but I was very shocked about the cocaine comment. And still to this day, I don't know what that was in reference to.
Okay, so had he ever asked you about bringing him? Like, had he ever done that before?
Never.
Okay. Do you know? Like, have you ever witnessed Bob or heard Bob doing any illegal substances before?
No, but if you take a look at the people he associates with, I wouldn't say it's too far out of reason.
Right. And you know, like I lived in Winchester for 10 years. I'd heard plenty of rumors as well. And you know, that doesn't seem too far-fetched to me. So I just thought that was very interesting, you know, and look, I thought it was also interesting that he sent you the picture of the beer to begin with, because, you know, at the time you weren't of age. So I thought that was kind of interesting that you've got this 60-some-year-old man sending you a picture of a beer. And it's like, what? That's a weird thing to do.
Right.
You know, and so that was just very, very, very strange. You know what I mean? Like, just very strange.
Well, when I read that, matter of fact, I was driving back from Indianapolis Airport. I had just got back from a trip, and I read this, and at first I even clicked off the name to make sure I was texting Bob, and and it was, you got cocaine, or you bring the cocaine. And, you know, to me, if he was joking, wouldn't he have put laughing faces or a LOL, or, you know, something more to signify that he was joking, versus, to me, I thought he was straight up serious.
Right.
And that was a total whiff for me, but it was, you know, and there was a question I just wanted to answer real quick. As somebody asked what my motivation with talking to Civic Duty was.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
The reason that I had a talk with Josh, I'm not going to go into too much detail of what happened, but there was an incident that took place between some of my friends and another group. And just to say, Josh was there. We kind of had words for a little bit, and then we got to talking, and that's how me and Josh had a conversation. But the day my relationship with Bob stopped, and I'm free to talk about it because the case was dismissed. But me and my ex-girlfriend, we had a shared bank account. We split up, and we split up, and she had went to the police and said that I didn't have access to use the bank account that we shared. So I got a warrant in November and was leaving for, or was December 14th. I was leaving for Christmas on the 15th and was picked up on the active warrant at Atlanta, Georgia airport. So I texted Bob because we were going to meet the next day. I had gotten some things from when I was in Hawaii and was going to exchange those. And I texted him as I was getting arrested by the U.S. Marshals and told him what was going on. So Bob's response was, "What the fuck have you got yourself into? I expected better." So I didn't respond to him at this point. I went through the process and, got the case dismissed. So early this year, Bob finds out about the case getting dismissed, or it's in the process of getting dismissed, and reaches back out to me. So we start having daily conversations beginning of this year again, never in person. I haven't seen Bob, maybe driving past him while he's out walking with his wife, but never face to face in the council meetings or I kind of distanced myself from that. Well, I was in London, England 2 weeks ago, and I get a call from Randolph County prosecutor David Daly that says in a case against Joshua Kimbrell as a respondent, I was being listed as a victim. And I immediately tried to reach out to Bob to find out what was going on. I had heard about the ordinance violation just through the grapevine and YouTube and Facebook and stuff like that, but I didn't know anything about the petition of the protective order. So the prosecutor is telling me that I am a victim and I am being listed in a protective order that Bob and Kirsten and all these people have filed. So he tells me about the court date and when the hearing is going to be. So I show up at this hearing to, in fact, hear that I was a victim in this case, and they were using me as a victim to go after Josh. Yeah. So that was the number one reason that I was pretty heated with what was going on. I was already upset because, as a friend of Bob's and somebody who stuck by him in good and bad times, I was very offended that when something happened, innocent until proven guilty,
absolutely,
he jumped ship and threw me out there to drown when I was there to help him and back him up when he may have not been 100% right most times, right. But I was always there as one of his loyal supporters. Yeah. So it was very offensive to me when I had something going on and Bob immediately ran away and didn't respond to any text. And, it was a lot of disrespect. And then as soon as the case clears up, he wants to now be friends with me again. Well, I'm sitting in vacation with my nieces, and I'm getting called from the prosecutor that I'm a victim in something that I knew nothing about. So that is where ties were cut. We hadn't spoke about that. I was going to show up to the meeting and see if I was going to be asked to testify as I'm a victim. That was the motivation of talking to Josh. It wasn't, just automatically jumping ship. There was a lot of groundwork done for that decision to be made by myself and a couple of other people to say, is Bob really my friend, or is Bob using me? Is what I've been told for the last year correct? Was I there to serve as a bodyguard to Bob and his team? And as I provided to Josh, there was clear intent that is what my role was to be that bodyguard for Bob, so that all the heat could be placed on me and Bob could sit back in the background. So that is why me and Josh had a conversation, and that brought us to here.
Sure. So, I mean, it's getting late. I know that you're off somewhere, so I don't want to keep you much longer, and I don't want to keep the viewers on here forever. But I just is there is there anything else that you think that people need to know? Is there anything, I mean, you know, from what you know, it's not like you've been a lifelong friend of Bob's and you guys have had a falling out. You know, you've been a pretty short amount of friend, but I will say it seems like Bob in that shorter period of time, and sometimes that happens politically, he really latched on and he's done and said a lot to you. You know, and you've been involved with a lot of stuff here. You know, either stuff with, it seems like you were someone that Bob used as kind of like a tool for various political enemies, not just like Josh and or us, but like, you know, some of the officers that maybe Bob wasn't in, you know, maybe good standing with and various things. You know, it just seems like Bob used you. I mean, from my point of view, and I'll put it to you like this, from the very first time dealing with you, I thought that Bob was using you. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I feel like he was abusing the situation. I feel like he was abusing, you know, whatever was going on, whatever friendship with you guys or whatever, you know. But is there anything else that you think that people need to know? Is there anything that you want people to know? You know, I mean, where do you stand on everything now?
Well, I'm a neutral party, and that's exactly why I'm here. And part of this was transparency.
Sure.
You know, I want people to know that your friends are not always your friends, and they're going to turn on you. But I think of all the allies that Bob had, I was the one that he probably didn't want to turn on.
Right.
The conversations that, you know, we've had, and the text messages, and just the overall concept of our friend. You know, it was one of those friendships where, okay, you know, we don't like the same person, and it was a little bit of, haha, this is funny, you know. Okay, he sent me a picture of Josh's wife at work, her car, or,
yeah,
you know, I'd send a picture of your guys' YouTube live stream, and he'd make a comment, and, you know, it's all funny, and, you know, within the realms of our friendship. But it got to a point where there wasn't a friendship. It was a one-sided friendship. I was providing and not receiving any support. I would ask, you know, I'm 20, going through, I was handling some pretty big things going on, and
sure.
and Bob was supposed to be that role model that I looked up to. But what kind of role model is this? And this is the leader of our community. That is where I stand. I think that he hurt me pretty bad, and I told Josh that, and my mother was there, you know, testifying to that. I,
right,
even before I started talking to Josh, I had already spoken to her about some of the, you know, the conversations that I've had with Bob. And I just felt like, since what happened in December, Bob was a completely different person. You know, before, he'd always invite me up. Hey, you know, I'm up in the office, or, you know, council meeting tonight. But it was never more of that. It was, you know, Bob wanted to be friends with me from a distance. At one point, I even had to call him as *67, so my number wouldn't even come up on his phone. That way, you know, for you guys to pull records, it wouldn't show who's actually calling. So when it got to the point where I was having to jump through all these hoops just to be friends with him, what is the point in being there? That's not friends.
right.
And to put me in a situation where I was already battling things in the legal system, to throw me into a case that you got for no reason, that now I'm a part of for no absolute reason. It was, that was the final cherry on top. And I'm all about transparency, and that's what you guys stand for. So I think, if, you know, once Bob folded on me, it was just, that was the karma. He knew what it was. And when he finally responded to me about the court case, and I said that, you know, I will be pissed if I'm called up there as a victim and asked to testify. I said I wouldn't be very happy. And Bob said, well, if you go up there and they ask, and Josh's attorney asks you anything, just tell them you don't recall, which is then encouraging me, a young child, to lie in the court. I mean, that is penalties for perjury. You're telling me to lie under oath in order for you to get what you want. Therefore, I wasn't doing that. And I didn't speak and they didn't call me up, but that was the end of me and Bob's friendship, which led to why I decided that, okay, I'm going to release these documents. Then, you're filing a protective order for harassment and bullying, but what do you call this? It's the same thing, and I didn't understand the point of it, and we bumped heads over this, and it was kind of, well, this is my side, this is your side, and that's why we're here.
Yeah. Wow, that's very interesting that you're being asked to say that you don't recall. That's a pretty crazy thing for him to do. And honestly, this whole thing, let me ask you that. Do you believe that Bob is in physical fear of his life from Josh?
No, I do not.
Okay. So that's interesting because, I mean, I know Josh is a big guy. I know he's loud. I know he cusses and things. And, today in that video, is the first time that I've ever started off with like, hey, you're going to fucking come out here. Like I normally don't do that. That's not my style. But I was like, all right, I'm done. It really what pissed me off, and I'll be honest, I let Bob get to me at this last meeting, making the faces and carrying on like an idiot, and that's really got to me more than anything. So I kind of got a little out of character today, but I know Josh uses bad words and all of this, but at the end of the day, none of these people honestly seem like they're afraid of him. Like Bob walked past us and talked to us today, and they're not doing anything ever to make them seem like they're afraid. So this definitely just seems like they're trying to use a legal tool to remove Josh. And so I think it's interesting. That's one of the things that I asked Jim a couple meetings ago. I said, are any of you afraid? And Jim's like, no, if I was afraid, I wouldn't be here. And I was like, right there, that's spot on. And so I think it's interesting that you, as someone who was around Bob and saw Bob and would talk to him, that you don't feel that. Did he ever make any statements like to that effect, or did he ever talk about like, we're using this, as a tool or anything like that?
No, I knew he was building a case, and I knew that it was getting filed. I didn't know when. I didn't know too much because the process started back when my own stuff was going on. So it wasn't until February, end of January this year when I kind of got back up to speed on some things, and kind of, was able to get back in order. And it was kind of, he told me about the ordinance violation. And then, they had sent a couple things around that got dismissed. I'd heard about that, but I never knew kind of the basis of it. I didn't know there were 28 different incidents or whatever they were going to use. But I knew that Bob was instructed by Attorney Cockrell to start building the case and, getting the videos. And I think that's why Bob had reached out and asked about the video for J.D. Prescott, which I don't know exactly what entirely his involvement is. His text just said, this was around the time where the state police came to the council meeting. And Bob wanted some video from that was on, that Josh had posted on YouTube, of him getting in the presiding officer's chair and things like that they wanted to take to the attorney general, and had asked me for those videos, but I just didn't have time. I didn't have time to go screen record them. And I just sent him the link for the video, and he could do that himself. So
right, here you go, Bob.
I knew it was coming,
yeah,
but I didn't know entirely to what extent. I'd heard a couple of things got dismissed, and then, or the special prosecutor didn't want to touch it. And then I knew this one was successful. And last I had heard, Union City took themselves off. And that was the last me and Bob had talked about it. But I didn't know that he was using me as a victim to get after Josh. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's so weird. That when I heard him say that, I was like, what in the hell? Like the dude is here in court. No one's talking to him and they're using his name. That was so weird when that happened. That was very strange.
I was listed in three different articles that, you know, three of the things they're trying to use against Josh was Josh harassed a local citizen who was there conducting business. Well, that's a flat out lie. I have never went there to conduct business, ever. Anytime I've gone to City Hall, it's to either have a conversation with Bob or I'd have a conversation with the police chief, Mike Burke. That is the only time I was at City Hall. I don't think I've ever filed a public records request. So in terms of city business, I really don't have city business. You know, they say right. Louis Galligan was there conducting city business when Josh tried to harass the citizen. That's very far-fetched.
Yeah. And that's interesting that you say that. And it's interesting. I mean, there were so many things. There were so many points of the whole situation, which seemed odd. And it really seemed odd to me that here you have Meeks Cockrell, who is an attorney and should know this stuff. And I don't know if you heard him on the stand when he said like he didn't understand what using the word trespassed. He was like, well, what do you mean trespass? Like, was he arrested? And he was like, the attorney was like, no, was he trespassed? And he's like, he act like he did not know what that meant. That seemed very odd to me that Meeks did not know that. But then when you look at how he like put this case together, they started kind of at the beginning, but not really. They went all out of order. They couldn't have went in order, because if they would have went in order, you would have seen Josh at the first saying, yes, sir, no, sir, hey, or man, please have another. And he would have been calm, cool, and collected. So they needed to start in like November and then jump around. And that's what they did. But then the weirdest part of the whole thing was they didn't choose to file this thing until March. The last incident that they had selected was the 26th of January. And there was a whole month and a half in there where Josh interacted with them, but they were, so you weren't, the last incident was the 26th of January. Were you afraid on the 27th? Were you afraid on the 29th? Were you afraid on the 3rd of February? Were you afraid on the 17th of February? Like, why were you not afraid all these other days in here? And then the biggest thing was Bob saying, like, I didn't know how to fill this paper out. I didn't have the resources to find out how to fill this out. And we're supposed to believe that he's competent enough to be the mayor of a city, but yet he can't fill out a piece of paper that teenagers fill out, that single mothers, that people who are addicted to drugs fill out when they're leaving bad situations. People fill out protective orders all day, every day, all over the United States. And Bob couldn't figure this process out. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah. And like I said, I was very shocked that it went to this extent, and I don't even know how it's made it this far. I was surprised that the special prosecutor, whoever I don't know who's in charge of this. I don't know how they went about getting this.
Well, this is just a civil case, so there is no prosecutor. So essentially what happened is the attorneys just filed this in court, and then, it's just like, this is like a lawsuit, basically. They are suing to get instead of like for money or whatever, they're suing to get a protective order put in place that would stop Josh from doing X, Y, or Z. And the biggest and the craziest thing is these protective orders, they don't even bar Josh from doing things in City Hall. Like, they just bar him from committing violence, which the law already does, and Josh has not committed violence so far. So it's really insane that they're doing all of this, and that they think that, you know, there might be things that are in poor taste, and people might not like pussy bitch or whatever, but excuse me, pussy ass bitch. I get it. I understand that. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, there's no violence here. And this has been such a travesty and a waste of time court-wise. I mean, listen, when we were sitting in there and we were like in hour 4 of us talking about pictures of cats and cartoon pictures of women's ass and Meeks's face and things like this, I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, there was like a murder trial in here at one point. And this is what we're doing. We're sitting in here talking about like words on the internet. Like, I agree with you. I don't know how it's gotten that far. And I think that Bob is cracking up, and I got to give you props for coming forward. I thank you for coming on and talking to me. You're welcome on here anytime. If you have anything you'd like to say, I would definitely like to continue talking to you, like off air, and see whatever. I hate that you got wrapped up in this. I hate that Bob used you the way that he did. I mean, I was saying it before you came on. I don't know. You might not have seen it. I mean, obviously, hell, you were 19. Legally, you're an adult. You know what I mean? I think you're 20 now, something like that. But, I mean, I remember being 20. I remember being a badass adult when I was 20. I know I'm 40 now, and it's not the same thing. You know what I mean? I think when I'm 60, I'll be like, hell, I didn't know anything when I was 40. I just think that it's always like that. That being said, I think it was gross what Bob was doing to you. And I think I would probably be punched in the face if I didn't end with this last question. And please, please, please understand, I mean nothing by this, but I feel like I have to ask just to clear the air, because I know that there's been a lot of people asking. Bob never came on to you like sexually or anything, right?
I'm not going to answer that on air.
Okay.
I will just say there's some things in the legal system. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
And off air, I would feel comfortable having that conversation with you.
Okay.
But I just think that there's some things that I'm working with the Randolph County prosecutor about, and I just think I would rather him answer those questions in terms of like sexual assault, kind of, if that's what you're asking. No, but I think there's some other things involving solicitation that are in the works. So
okay,
I'll leave it at that.
That's fair enough. I appreciate you. Hold on here. I appreciate you saying that. When I'm going to pull you down here 1 second, but don't go anywhere. Just stay tight. I appreciate you coming on here and talking to us, Louis. I appreciate you giving me the time of day. And, I wish you no ill will. I wish you the best. If there's anything I can do to ever help you, I'll do whatever I can. You've got my number. You can call me. You can text me or email me, message me however you can. We'll go from there. But just hang tight. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to wrap up the show, and then I'll be right back, okay?
Hey, sounds good. Thanks, Chris.
All right, stay there. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I don't really know what to say. That was a lot more interesting than what I even thought that it would be. I appreciate Lewis's time. I definitely appreciate you guys in the comments. I appreciate JT Jones more than anybody else. I love you. Thank you for coming on here, honey. I'll talk to you later. Very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. So keep tuned. Josh dropped a video today. The Bastards will be on tomorrow. We should have an interesting show tomorrow for you. Play Bob in all his glory video. What's that? Oh, all right. We'll do that. We'll do that.
We'll
going
end
out.
end the show with the Bob and You're an Idiot video.
Yeah. We'll
short,
end
dear.
that. Yeah. I appreciate you guys watching. And Lewis can still see your comments, and you know, he'll obviously watch this, so I appreciate that. Please feel free to share the show with everyone you know. Like, comment, subscribe, do all of that stuff. You guys know what to do. Let me get this pulled up here, and we will do that for you. We will be back tomorrow. This is Wednesday. What a Wednesday show it has been. So what a way to end Bilbrey Live for the week. Tomorrow is Thursday. The Bastards will be here. We'll be back. It'll be a great show. I think we're going to be talking about computer glitchings and freezings. No, I think we're going to be talking about the No Labels Party, and where politics is heading, maybe should be heading. We're going to be talking about thoughts about that. So please be looking for that. That'll be at 8 p.m. tomorrow. I'm trying to get this video pulled up. Okay, right here we go. Here we go.
I'm talking about love.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
And your kids, my kids, the whole city's kids. Your kids, my kids, the whole city. Your kids, my kids, the whole city's kids. I'd love to go somewhere like that. And your
I can see you from behind. You can hear me in your mind. Run so fast as you can go. Time will catch you before you know.
Well, damn it.